Greetings from Germany. Observe these happy faces. We had never seen visuals like these before. With open arms, Germany and Austria welcomed thousands of refugees and migrants. Thousands of volunteers were cheering aboard the train as it carried tens of thousands of refugees into Germany. This place welcomes refugees. Germany received 1/3 of all refugees in 2015. This was 60% the next year. Deutschland, Germany. However, a second wave of migration has begun that does not account for Ukrainian refugees. Add these data together, and the numbers much outweigh those related to the immigration issue, with Germany accounting for the largest portion once more. Germany is currently the third biggest refugee-hosting nation worldwide and the largest in the EU. The proportion of Germans with migrant backgrounds is 27%, and in a few places, such as Offenbach, not many of the inhabitants own a German passport. However, this subsequent crisis is distinct. This is taking place following 2 arduous years of suffering due to the epidemic and the war in Ukraine, which increased the cost of everything from food to gas. What impact did the initial migrant crisis have on crime rates, the financial system, and all of Germany? And what connection exists between the current protests that drew in over 1 million people and this second crisis? This is the hindsight-driven German migrant crisis. It is difficult to talk about migration. Opinions on this topic are strong, and it's such an emotive subject. It's not always socially acceptable to discuss the drawbacks of welcoming refugees into your nation. I'll also give my personal thoughts on this at the conclusion of the video. Germany had already received waves of immigrants in the 1950s and 1960s. Their economy was growing quickly, and they struck agreements with Turkey in particular to bring in large numbers of workers and their families in order to address a significant labor shortage. There was a significant influx of migrants in the later 1980s and early 1990s, and Germany handled these asylum seekers horribly. They frequently lived in appalling conditions, which strained relations with the locals. However, the accusations regarding these refugees were frequently disregarded, which led to widespread unrest. Neo-Nazi mobs frequently attacked refugee communities with the support of hundreds or even thousands of locals. Many people in Germany were awakened by these pictures, which quickly went viral. Numerous anti-racism protests were held in response to these incidents. This past helps to explain why Germans were so incredibly welcoming of refugees in 2015. However, it also resulted in an increasing proportion of Germans becoming concerned about their nation's immigration policies. Merkel made his decision in part because of his ideological beliefs, but he also thought that these refugees would provide a more useful solution. Germany's labor force is declining as the country's population ages. By 2040, the number of workers in Germany is predicted to decrease by 4.4 million, according to official data. And low birth rates contribute to this in part. Women are increasingly choosing to work over having children, which led to the birth rate falling to an all-time low in 2011. Furthermore, the baby boomers of the 1950s and 1960s were starting to retire, putting a heavy financial burden on German society. Germany would require 400,000 new immigrants annually to stop its population from declining under current trends. Worschaften das became her anthem, and thus started the remarkable influx of refugees into Germany. They welcomed well over 440,000 refugees in 2015, accounting for 1/3 of all the asylum applicants in Europe during that year. They took 722,000 the following year, or around 60% annually. The belief that migration is necessary for a region to attain a specific demographic, economic, or social goal is known as replacement migration, and it is the name of this method. Low birth rates frequently have an impact on this idea, which commonly aims to prevent the population's overall and working-age population from declining. Additionally, the average number of German women is among the lowest in Europe, just 1.3, compared to the 2.1 required to sustain a population. On average, foreign-born women in Germany had a higher birth rate -1.8. Almost half of children under 5 are immigrants, either first or second generation, these days, preparing Germany for a considerably larger proportion of its population to have immigrated. This change in the population was unexpected and abrupt, and from the first, an increasing proportion of Germans expressed anxiety, initially about Germany's capacity to accommodate such a big number of people, and then more and more about the desirability of this demographic transformation. And the shark rampage. Even though the people who committed these atrocities are not the refugees who arrived in 2015. This added to the general anxiety over the impact of the government's immigration policies on the nation. With an anti-immigration platform, the newly established Alternative for Germany, or AfD, unexpectedly rose to become the third largest political party in Germany in 2017. While some saw this wave of change as a victory, others were afraid of these advancements. But a new crisis was about to erupt in Germany. Even though it was less than in 2015 and 2016, the number of asylum seekers in Europe increased in 2022 and 2023, with Germany once again holding the highest percentage. Illegal border crossings were recorded in greater numbers, a 70% increase. The majority of migrants were from Syria, Afghanistan, and Turkey, and loose immigration laws during the pandemic contributed to this rise of refugees. Furthermore, the EU granted temporary protection to 4.2 million Ukrainians, of whom around 25% were residing in Germany. Once again, Germans welcomed displaced Ukrainians into their nation. A remarkable proportion of Germans showed a desire to provide shelter to those in need of it. However, it was concomitant with a discernible shift in language about immigration policy, with Olaf Scholz becoming Germany's chancellor, as well as his vice-chancellor and finance minister under Merkel. He shared some of the blame for how the government handled the initial refugee crisis. Scholz's approval rating was 65% when he assumed office, but by June 2024, it had dropped to 28%. AfD leaders met in private with neo-Nazis in a hotel close to Potsdam 1 month later to discuss the expulsion of millions of people with migrant backgrounds. However, they were unaware that a team of reporters had snooped on the gathering, and they revealed their intentions in early January. Across the nation, over 1 million people demonstrated in the streets. A string of violent attacks, some with political motivations, put an end to this. The phrase "the road to hell is paved with good intentions" is a Portuguese adage, but only after the fact. Which intents those are, we can tell. Germany will hold federal elections next year, and voters' top concern right now is migration. The percentage of persons concerned about migration has increased from 67% to 86% in the past year. Voting behavior will probably be influenced by the government's actions or inactivity in the upcoming months. As of July 2024, when this article was written, the headlines promised that Scholz would increase the number of people deported, remove criminals from the country, and implement a historically tougher immigration policy. If you found this video informative, consider subscribe to our YouTube channel for more engaging videos like this.